embarrassingly swept in round one by Columbus. Huge disappointment. They had a few changes. They're a contender. Don't have to make too many moves. They did add Kevin Shattenkirk, Pat Maroon, Curtis McElhinney, and Luke Shen. They said bye to J.T. Miller, and Dan Girardi retired. We've been saying about all these contenders, guys. The Lightning don't have to make any major changes. They're right there. They're stacked. They're the cup fave once again. But they took it too lightly. Vasilevsky said, "I think we got comfortable and we just weren't ready in the playoffs." I thought that was a pretty revealing quote. Whit Dog, what do you think they do this year, buddy?
I say look out league. But I also say I don't think it'll be like it was last year, and it'll partly be because that was once in a lifetime type regular season. Here's the thing, like when is Vasilevsky you said who said that?
Yes.
So it's almost impossible to not become complacent when you've clinched the first top seed in the playoffs for the Eastern Conference in January? I mean, they had months of hockey where, as hard as you're saying, we got to play, we got to be ready for the playoffs, we got to keep going, got to keep grinding. In your head, like we're locked up. So it's just a tough thing to deal with. Now, you can't do anything about it. You're playing that good, winning all these games early and dominating. It's like, what are you going to do? Change winning all these games? No.
Right.
But I just don't think that'll happen the way it did last year. So because of that, they'll be more ready going in. They add Shattenkirk, who I think is looking to prove a lot of people wrong that think he's like not necessarily a really good puck-moving D-man anymore. And then also in the playoffs, you got to remember, Hedman, who's the best defenseman in the NHL, arguably, he's hurt. He wasn't able to play. He was really, really hurt, actually, the way he was playing. So a bunch of horrible things went against them in the playoffs. It was a dream regular season that ended up turning into a nightmare. And because of that, when you go through a devastating, hard loss like that, I think that they're going to be driven and ready to just run teams over this year.
Part of the problem I had with them going into playoffs last year was they hadn't really faced any type of adversity throughout the season. Mm-hmm. So when you're all of a sudden you play a certain style and then you get into playoffs and things do tighten up a bit, especially when you're playing against a defensive-minded Torts team who doesn't give you any square inch out there unless you've earned it. They got behind the eight ball and they were unable to adjust, and they couldn't figure out how to get through that adversity because they hadn't done it as a group all season long. So going to this year, you said it probably won't be like last year as far as how they dominated throughout the entire course of the season, and that's probably a good thing.
Yeah, it really is.
To me, the biggest question mark is, I would say that the most drastic thing about that playoff performance, I would say, was Vasilevsky. I thought he didn't even give him a chance to win. His glove hand was non-existent. Now, of course, they believe in him. They think he can get back to his elite status right away over the course of the regular season. But you've now paid him to guessing that he might be able to flip the switch on this year. So, that's got to be the question mark going into the postseason. So, we're in a case here where I don't really care what I see from the regular season out of these guys. I know they're going to make the playoffs. I just want to see what's going to happen when they get to the dance.
Part of the reason that it can be somewhat difficult is that it's such a long time away from playoffs. So they have to wait so long to really prove people wrong. And all the guys in the room know, even if we do it again, everyone's going to say, well, show me what you did in April.
And RA, as I said too earlier, is like we know exactly how they're going to play. They're going to play like the way they did in the last year's regular season. Right? So it's like, what happens this year moving forward if they do make playoffs and then you suffer another early exit where it's like, yeah, we have a fun team to watch in the regular season, and analytics and all these other things tells us how great we are, but when the play tightens up a little bit and it's playoff hockey time, well, those numbers mean jack shit. So we'll see. They got
Braden Point out to start the year. So that'll be a little tough, right? Not necessarily, but he does have a hip injury.
I'm sorry, I thought you meant the sign.
Just signed the other day. But in terms of off-season hip,
right?
I believe hip, right? So we'll see how they start. I just think that the coaching staff and everyone on that team realizes, all right, we know we're going to be in the playoffs. We're going to play good hockey, but it's just not going to be like it was last year. It may never again be like that for a team in the regular season.
And also another thing we're going to see is how is the Pat Maroon experiment going to go? Because he's a guy where if you look at the way he plays and his structure and, maybe he is slowing down now that he's getting older, that's a different pace that they play at. So maybe it'll completely benefit them to have a guy who is far...
cycle.
Yeah, he could cycle and own the walls, and I really think come playoff hockey time that's where he shines because, puck protection and eating clock and wearing teams down and being physical down low is a big part of it. We talked to Crosby about it. He's a skilled guy who's great along the walls, and you have to add that to your bag. So I'm going to be interested to see how that pans out. But I think overall, Callahan's not playing anymore, and he wasn't on the best friendly contract for their purposes, and then they ended up getting rid of JT Miller.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so they've cleared their cap space issues, and they haven't gotten worse. Yeah, that's a better team.
And exclusive of Vasi in the playoffs last year, they just got out hustled by Columbus. I mean, that was a team piss poor effort. But I want to ask you, I'll ask you, Biz. Not that a team wants to dial it down. I mean, obviously you paid to go full throttle, but how does a coach almost sort of pull in the reins so you don't, basically blow your load before the playoffs like they did last year?
Well, it's hard because you're trying to teach them the mindset of we can't let off the gas, and they didn't.
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
It's just like,
what are you supposed to do?
They had that thing clinched a month and a half before.
It's the perfect storm.
Yeah.
It's and that's why I said it's like you can't do anything. You're gonna keep winning, but you're just like, geez, this is like too good to be true. We haven't lost at all.
You also know it's such a game of like inches, and anything, the littlest thing can change an entire series. They went up 3-0 in the first period of Game 1 against Columbus.
That was everything.
Say they win that game 4-1. Like, do they go on to sweep them? It was just this perfect storm that I do not think will happen again. I love their team again this year. I think they will not lose in the first round. And look for them to make a cup run. And they are my pick to win this division again.
It would be an absolute shame if you put this core group of players together, and by the time it's all withered away, because these guys are not getting any younger, if they were unable to bring a championship home with that fucking lineup. And
they've been a contender for a decade now. I mean, they had that series versus the Bruins with Stamkos. That was 2011, and they've been pretty much in contention since then. And
done
they've been
a
to one cup final.
wonderful job as an organization. And I hate to bring it here. You have to imagine that an advantage goes in the fact that they don't pay state tax, and you just saw it.
Love it.
You just saw it on that. Compare the contracts. I believe you showed me that Marner's making 11 in Toronto. And
points, I think 6,
just under 7. I think he makes 6.75 or something.
Either way, the tweet,
and Marner's only taking home $1 million more than him a year after taxes,
and the cap hits $4 million higher.
Of course, you're going to be able to keep this well structured team together. It's kind of like the opposite for Toronto. Yeah, that's why they're having so many issues. You're looking at the exact same thing: drafted, developed.
Oof. How are you?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
The double ED.
Now, because they're living where they are, they're getting, they're going to being able to do it. Where Toronto has to fucking make moves in order to keep those guys. Maybe.
Yeah. So obviously playoffs for them, yes, no doubt. Myself as well. They just got to remember this April, how shitty they felt last April, and make sure it doesn't happen again.